Aurelio, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Heck yeah.
Appreciate it. So you started out in baseball before you got into business at all.
Yep.
And you kind of had a sad story when it came to baseball, as a lot of people end their careers with injuries. So what happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long story, but to keep it as brief as I can, I mean, before I even got into like entrepreneurial, my journey and started my own businesses and stuff, it was always baseball for me, leading up to that, trying to play in the professional levels. And I was super blessed to get a scholarship to play Division I. But yeah, I mean, long story short, it was, a 180 twist on like my journey with baseball specifically. Senior year, I ended up blowing out my shoulder, and I committed super early, like sophomore year of high school. Yeah, I mean, thankfully I had really good coaching staff that were able to honor my scholarship. So, I was still able to stand with that and pursue my education as well. But really that's kind of when things took a turn, was my senior year of high school. Blew out my shoulder, tried coming back. First surgery failed freshman year. Got a second surgery sophomore year. That was also COVID. So COVID year, our entire season was canceled. So everyone got a redshirt year as well. So I'm going into my first 2 years of college with 2 redshirt years, my injury redshirt year and then a COVID redshirt year. So, I'm busting my tail to get back on the field. And through this process, I mean, I was doing everything I can to get back to the field, and it was like, long story short, like where I'm kind of going with this was, that's really what groomed me to like who I am today. Like the mindset that I have, the things that I've accomplished to today was like all the adversity that I faced going through. Cause I got a total of 3 shoulder surgeries, 2 on my right and then 1 on my left. And it was difficult, definitely a hard time, like growing up as like everything's just about baseball. So I had a really good relationship with my dad. We still do. Come from a great family. They were super supportive. And, I was always traveling around the country, tournaments, showcases, whatever it is to get my name out there, and, what happened was I ended up getting the second surgery and I was busting my tail. I come back junior year, in the fall, I start working in inter squad scrimmages before the spring season. And I was doing really well for not seeing like live pitching and going on like 4 years. And then obviously you're playing Division I baseball, you're seeing one of the best collegiate arms in the country, so I kind of just hopped right back in the swing of things. I was doing really well. Ended up getting in a collision down the first base line because I was a middle infielder. But once I had my second surgery, it was also my throwing arm. So I lost majority of my arm strength. So they were working me in at first base. So I was learning a new position. I ended up getting a collision, tore my left labrum, dislocated my shoulder. And that was really the turning point in my career. It's like, you know what? I went into my coach's office and he was talking to me. He's like, hey, what do you really want? And I told him, hey, I just want to get my degree. I want to try and make it back to the field. And this was prior to junior year. So this was around sophomore year after my second surgery. And I told him, hey, I just want to get my degree. I want to try and make it back to the field. And that's it, and he was awesome head coach. He was able to honor that for me, just like he honored my scholarship before I even, attended Seton Hall. That's where I went, over in Newark. And yeah, I mean, that was really the turn of events. My junior year, when I got my third surgery, that was kind of like the time to hang the cleats up. So I ended up going on like a medical honor roll, it's called, where my senior year I had no obligation to the team. But I still got to keep my athletic scholarship, and continue to get my degree. So I ended up moving back home my senior year. So I was about 45 minutes away from Newark. So I commuted. I only had like 3 classes my senior year, commuted to finish those out. And right going into that phase of my senior year was when I really started realizing, because leading up to that entire point, I always tell this to a lot of people don't understand what the next level of like the sports, how they treat you. And it's totally fair, right? The injured don't get to travel. They don't get to do a lot of the things that the other teammates do, right? So you kind of get left out, right? And I kind of went through a sort of, I don't want to say like a depression, but I went through a sort of phase where, an eye-opening experience to be treated that way and kind of be left behind and be like, damn, like, I'm working my tail to get back to the field and you don't get treated the correct way. So that was like the turning point of my career leading into my senior year of like, damn, I'm about to go get a 9-to-5, and there's nothing wrong with it, right? But for me to experience the the point of view from our coaches and just having someone breathe down your neck was super difficult for me, you know, because like we'd show up to class and it's like, hey, if you're a minute late, the professors tell the coaches, and I'm showing up to practice and they're like, hey, I heard you were late to class this morning. It just sucked, that feeling. It felt like I was in preschool again, you know, having like another set of parents there. And that was really the turning point, that what groomed me of realizing, damn, like I want to be my own boss. I want to be my own person. I hate showing up to practice. I hate showing up to class, feeling like I got to obey someone else's rules and doing all these things. I'll tell you a quick story and then I'll kind of wrap it up. But my sophomore year, I was sitting in calc class, and I spoke about this before, but it's really funny. A good professor, but she was very miserable. She was out of shape. She was overweight. She just wasn't happy to come into class every day. And I'm sitting there one day, and you know, this is after my second surgery, and I'm realizing, you know, I'm looking around the room and I got all these other students in here, like basically bowing down to this professor, listening to everything she's saying, you know, regardless of the business and the calc that she was teaching. She would also give life advice. And I hear everyone kind of listening, taking it in. I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, you know, and that was really an eye-opening experience for me. It's like, wow, unfortunately, like I can't take your knowledge because I see the way you're living your life. I see how you carry yourself, and I don't want to be like that, you know? So that process, going through that adversity with my injuries and how I was being treated, allowed me to have a different look and outlook on my life and where I wanted to see myself be once I graduated. So when I moved home senior year was when I really started diving down the rabbit hole of what businesses can I look into. Real estate was at the top of the chain for me, wholesaling, flipping vacant land. I tried so many different things. And I had success in, you know, a couple different areas, but it wasn't until I met my mentor, that's a really good friend of mine to today, that helps me with life advice, financial advice, business models, whatever it is. And he pretty much paved the road for me. You know, yeah. He was the one that got the results I was looking for at such a young age. And I was like, hey, this is someone who I'm going to tail and kind of just ride, you know, and that's kind of fast forward to today. Allowed me to really just have this mindset shift at such a young age because I went through so much adversity. Because don't get me wrong, it's very normal for athletes to go through injuries and their career, but let alone 3 surgeries, that a year and a half recovery on each one. And
it's like Derrick Rose.
Yeah, dude, it's a setback every time. Yeah. And it's not just physically, it's mentally, you know? So that put a big toll and allowed me to kind of look, you know, elsewhere and do all of these things. So that's kind of a long story short on where that kind of came from.
Athletes are just they're never the same after the first one, let alone the third, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get back into it. What kind of businesses, and you touched on it a little bit, like wholesaling, other stuff. And obviously real estate's one of the biggest businesses, like everybody's in real estate. Most entrepreneurs have a little bit in real estate. What were the businesses you started before you got into Airbnbs?
Yeah, so junior year was when I really started like looking into a bunch of different routes because when the team was traveling, I was home, you know? So I had all this free time separate from my classes that I was taking. So I was in my room at school and just like literally ripping through YouTube University, seeing what can I get into. That's when info was like really popping, you know? So I looked into wholesaling. I did that for about 6 months. I was doing like 150, 200 cold calls a day, just trying to land deals. Like,
were you trying it on your own or do you have a mentor?
No, just on my own.
Okay.
Yeah. So literally just ripping that. And I did decently well.
You made some money from it?
Yeah, I did. And I realized that I was competing with such big companies that had like 20, 30, 50 VAs calling. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is saturated. Yeah, I could probably do well if I stuck with it for a couple years. But I wanted to get into something that was not as saturated, where I can like really build a foundation myself. So that was like, okay, I tried it, learned some skill sets along the way. So I was like, okay. And then, dude, there were so many things, just small businesses with my buddies that we would come up with, you know, that, pointless at this point, but small things like that. And then come end of junior year was when I got into Airbnb and things really just took off from there.
Nice. And how did you meet your mentor for Airbnbs?
Just online.
Yeah. Like ripping through YouTube University. And
exactly. Everything? Yeah. Well, at this point, my feed was like filled with like info ads, like all these things. And I just saw an organic piece of content from my mentor to this day and reached out to him, and he saw how serious it was. I was pretty young. I think I was one of his like first or second students that he's ever worked with. So I really got a hands-on work that allowed me to really pull his skill sets, learn exactly his framework behind business. And that helped out a ton.
In the simplest terms possible, like you're speaking to a kindergartner, what is Airbnb arbitrage?
Yeah, so very simple, right? A lot of people overcomplicate it, but Airbnb arbitrage is essentially you're taking a property, an asset that you don't own, whether it's from a landlord, apartment complex, or property management group, right? And you sign a long-term lease in your business name. You don't put it in your personal name. You sign it in your business name with their 100% consent that you're going to list this property on short-term rental websites, Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Furnish Finder. There's a ton out there, right? And you go ahead and you put those properties on those short-term rental websites, and everything that you make on top of your expenses, which is your rent and your utilities, that's your profit. So of course there's a ton of market research that goes in the back end and pricing and stuff. You got to make sure you're in a good market. But in the simplest terms, you're making money with someone else's asset, right? And a lot of people hear Airbnb, it's like you buy a property, right? Whether it's a long-term rental or short-term rental, and then you have to put 30, 50 G's down.
Upfront cost is a lot, yeah.
Exactly. Arbitrage, you don't have that much, right? So it's a really good entry into real estate with low capital, right? You just have furniture costs, first month's rent, security deposit, okay? And then you just run it from there. So you could get started with like $5,000 to $10,000, and plus you could leverage the bank's money. So you don't need to have that money liquid, but in simplest terms, you're taking someone else's property and you're re-renting it out, subletting on short-term rental websites. Yeah.
And why should anybody want to sign a lease with a random tenant, like a long-term regular lease instead of doing Airbnb? Like for example, let's say I have a 3-flat in Chicago. Why should I do Airbnb instead of just renting it out to a normal tenant?
It's a good question. So there's both ends of the stick on this, but like what I tell everyone is you got to realize as a businessman, right? Usually working with another businessman, a partner, right? Maybe if it is a property management group, you're talking to a manager, but you got to understand the position that these people are in, right? Landlords, their goal is to preserve wealth. Their goal is to buy as much properties as they can, right? And build a massive portfolio for their kids, their family. Yeah, a little bit of cash flow, but long-term rentals aren't too big on cash flow, right? They're really to preserve wealth, build equity until you start getting to like 50 doors. Then of course you're cash flowing a lot of money. But their main goal, you have to realize their goal is to pay their mortgage and of course continue buying more properties. But they have really one big problem. And these big time guys, they have hundreds of doors. Every year they got to find new tenants, right? And not let alone find tenants, they got to be good. They're not going to squat. They're not going to, be late on rent and do all these things. So if you take their goal, which is continue buying more properties, right? They have to find new tenants for every property they get. Otherwise, they're paying mortgage out of their pocket. Someone like myself comes into play and says, hey, Mr. Landlord, I'm going to go ahead and sign a long-term lease. I'm going to be quote unquote your tenant, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and take care of this property better than your tenants even would. I have a professional cleaning team coming in multiple times a month, right? It's being cleaned. Think about it, like B-class or even C-class properties, the tenants don't take care of the property. I wouldn't say it's like Section 8, but it's like, I don't know, maybe they clean it once a month, if that. Well, Airbnb, you have a professional cleaning team coming in multiple times a month. So the property's in tip-top shape, right? And I'm providing consistent rent in their pocket, the landlord's pocket, which is going to allow them to pay their rent, make the profit, whatever on top, and then continue to pull equity out and buy more properties, right? So that's really where someone like myself comes into play. A lot of people don't understand how scalable the business model is because once they see how well you're operating the first property they give you, they want to continue feeding you more properties. Because what else am I doing? I'm also cutting out a property manager. You don't need to have a property manager to manage it. I'm going to do all that for you. So now I'm reducing their costs and allowing them to get to their goals much faster, which is the key, right? And a lot of people don't understand it's a partnership, right? They view me as an asset just like I view them as an asset in their property. Yeah. Right. So it's finding a problem and then creating a solution.
How did you choose the location of your first property, and how did that go for you? How did that fare?
Yeah, it was good, and I got a good story on this. So I first started in PA, Pennsylvania, okay, in a small town called Wilkes-Barre. I got a couple.
You're not on site, are you? Is this all virtual?
Well, so I'm originally from New Jersey, so it was about an hour and a half trip for me. So I was going to all these landlords in person to pitch them, and I was going to tour the properties. You have way more success than closing these people in person rather than over the phone. You could close them over the phone, of course, but as a startup, you want to leverage your confidence. You want to leverage the person that you are, meaning myself. And I wanted to do that and build a relationship with these people. I knew that I would have way more of a success rate. So I landed my first unit there. Still a college student, like very broke, And actually my father had a wake to go up around there. It was like 30 minutes away. So he ended up coming with me, him and my dad, or myself and my dad rather, toured the place. Guy loved us. He said, hey, I see this kid's got ambition. Gave me a shot. And I'm taking multiple properties from him months down the road. And that's kind of where that led up to. Yeah.
Why don't these landlords, when they hear you're using it for Airbnb, why don't they just end up doing it themselves?
Yeah. And there's people that definitely do. But again,
has that ever happened to you where you pitch somebody and then they ended up just doing it themselves?
It hasn't for me personally, but I have heard stories. And again, it all depends on what these people want, right? You got to understand between a long-term rental and a short-term rental, there's so many different skill sets you have to run it. Pricing, market research, cleaning team, you're managing multiple people. A lot of these landlords, they're old. They got gray hair. They've learned their skill sets of buying property, pulling out equity, using loans and all of these things. It's like, do they really want to kind of start from ground zero and learn an entire new skill set to run a short-term rental? Yes, some might, right? But a lot of them don't. They want to just continue going and reaching their goals. So there's both ends to it for sure.
What's the way that you find the perfect property to use? How do you search for properties? How do you find good cities to do them in?
So for me, I'll kind of give you a rundown. Like my approach on Airbnb is a little bit different than most people. So I serve corporate professionals, and same with all my clients.
That's like your niche.
It's my niche.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a lot of people hear Airbnb, they're like, oh, vacational style houses, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom style houses, amazing amenities. Don't get me wrong, those properties crush. You do really well. But as a business owner, anytime you're creating anything, the goal is to build consistent revenue, consistent cash flow, right? And these vacational properties, well, they have slow seasons, right? Here in Florida, right? If you have a property in West Palm Beach, it might be an A-class building or an A-class house that you're going to serve bachelor or bachelorette parties, people coming for tourism. But then there's certain months of the year where it's super hot here, so people aren't going to travel. So there's very inconsistent revenue stream with those types of properties compared to what I do is serving corporate professionals, right? So you serve travel nurses, doctors, lawyers, people that got to come to the area no matter the season and no matter the market conditions we're in. Say we're in a recession, it doesn't matter. These people got to travel for work no matter what, right? And you have those types of properties. Well, now you have a foundation of a portfolio. It's going to bring in consistent rent. And then I teach like my clients, and currently what I'm doing now is then you could start tacking on vacational style homes, buying short-term rentals, things of that sort, that'll of course boost your revenue stream. But you have a core foundation of a portfolio that's going to provide consistent revenue, right? And that's with the corporate professionals. So we go in these smaller niche markets. We're not looking at New York City. We're not looking at Miami, Florida. Like we're in these small markets that aren't saturated. There's not a ton of operators. You're going to have other operators in the area, but kind of leading back to your question is hospitals, military bases, Amazon warehouses. Of course, you got to make sure the Airbnb regulations are in check. There's no like crazy regulations, like specifically in LA, it's 30-day minimum stays, which is tough. You could of course run a business, an Airbnb business there, but there's a lot of strain on the business model because every, guest that you're hosting has to stay for a minimum 30 days, right? But you got to make sure regulations check out. And of course, you got to look at the other short-term rentals. I even look at long-term rentals. How are they performing? What's their occupancy rate? What are the average daily rate that these other hosts are charging in the area? And you kind of just take the risk, Yeah.
And if you're getting into a new market, small town near a hospital, how do you pitch to the landlord? Because this is what I hear a lot of people say about Airbnb arbitrage is you pitch the landlord that you're going to set up an Airbnb here and just start paying them rent. How do you build that trust in them that they're going to get a check every month from you? Yeah.
So everyone, like every landlord has different things. Like they may want to see pay stubs. They may want to see, hey, you have, 20, 30 G's in your bank account. And there's so many ways around it. You can move money. Like I've had my parents, when I first started, my landlord wanted to see, hey, can you cover the first 6 months of rent in your bank? I had my parents just wire me money, take a screenshot, send it to them, and I just wired them back the money. So there's so many ways around it. But the pitch is very simple. It's very simple, right? You literally just go to them. And I tell even all my clients that I teach is like, you're explaining the business model, right? You're not salesy. You're not trying to sell them. There's going to be landlords and people out there that are going to want to work with you. And when you explain the pitch correctly, like I said, they're going to see you as an asset, right? They're going to want to work with you. A smart businessman is going to be like, wow, maybe a year or 2 years from now, this person is going to have 20 of my units, 30 of my units. That's paying me consistent rent on time every single month. And a quick pitch is very simple. Hey, property looks like a really good location for where we're at. We're a corporate housing company. And first thing I ask is if they allow corporate leases. And 9 out of 10 times you're going to sign a traditional lease, But the difference between a traditional lease and a corporate lease is you're allowed to put your business name on the lease rather than your personal name. So
For liability reasons.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, hey, I own a corporate housing company. I'm looking to pick up some more units in the area. Your property looks great. Very simple pitch. Feel them out. This could be over the phone. If they allow corporate leases, great. I really don't even pitch them on the phone. I just segue right into a tour. Like, hey, I want to come see the property. Would love to meet you in person. And then I pitch them in person, right? Because once they see the confidence, they see everything behind, and you go meet them in person, they're gonna be like, wow, this does make sense, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I know you do a lot of these corporate places near warehouses, hospitals, but where do you think the best cities or areas to go in 2026 are for Airbnb?
Yeah, this is good stuff out there for people listening. Southeast, Southwest, Arizona is really hot. North Carolina, Alabama is very hot. There's tons and tons of markets. But again, you do have to be careful because a lot of them are saturated. You do, right? Don't get me wrong. You could move into a saturated market and do phenomenally well, but you're competing with hosts that's been operating for years like myself, right? So you got to know your pricing to a T. You got to know your occupancy rate to a T. You got to understand your high season and low season. North Carolina, Alabama, some markets in Florida are good, tucked away. Arizona, there's a lot. Yeah.
What kind of laws are associated with Airbnbs when you go into a new town or something? What are the laws you kind of run into that could stop your deals happening?
There's not really too many laws that will stop, but there are laws that will prohibit you from operating as efficient as you want. Like I said, in LA, they have the 30-day minimum stay. So you can't host a guest for less than 30 days. So now your target audience shrinks, right? You can only target your property people that are coming to stay on a monthly basis.
Why do they do that in LA?
It's just how it is. It's just how it is. Like the cities, they like to have their hand in the pot with everything, and it's reasonable. But then there's other markets that you just need permits, right? So short-term rental permits, a couple $100, if that. And then there's some markets, of course, that have the strictest regulations where you can't operate, of course. Yeah. Stay away from those places. But I tell all my clients is go to a market where there is some regulation, right? Rather see in a market where there is some regulation where you just need a permit or something simple, rather than going to a market where there's no restriction or regulation, because who knows, at any point, that city can turn and be like, you know what, no more short-term rentals, and then you're kind of screwed. Yeah. Now, of course, there's ways around it. I have a lease addendum that virtually binds with the lease that you sign with the landlord. And in there, I have a couple clauses hey, if anything does come upon a regulation where we're not allowed to operate correctly, we could terminate the lease. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, as an Airbnb company, you want to make sure every day is booked for each of your properties, right? What are the best ways to push each of your property to potential clients to fill every single day? What are your tips and tricks to marketing your properties? Yeah.
So one thing I will say is pricing. Pricing is a skill. It takes a lot of time. And it's more of an art, right? And it takes time to learn the market. So that's number one, always pricing. But secondary is you need to be listed on every short-term rental website there is, not just Airbnb, right? That's why I tell people when I pitch them, it's I'm not an Airbnb company, right? That's where so many people go wrong. They pitch as an Airbnb company, and these landlords are thinking, well, these people are going to party in my place. They're going to destroy all these things. Your framework of your pitch is incorrect. You're not an Airbnb company. You're listed on VRBO. You're listed on Furnish Finder. You're listed on Booking.com. So being listed on multiple different short-term rental websites, having your own direct booking website, right? So you can have your own place where reoccurring guests can book through you, avoid the fees. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, this is super important, is you can call hospitals and tell them, hey, you have properties in the area. If you guys ever have assignment of travel nurses come into the area, need a place to stay, here's my number. It's a really good one. And then networking with insurance companies. So families that need to be displaced from fires, floods, they'll call you and say, hey, I got a family of 3, family of 4. They need a place for about 2 months. Their house is under remodel. Can you accommodate it? So there's so many different ways. And then obviously you could run ads if anything. You get on Zillow, you could get on apartments.com, whatever it is. There's so many ways to advertise.
And I know we went through this already a little bit, but what are the biggest objections you get from landlords when you pitch them?
Yeah, the biggest one is why would I let you do this? Why don't I just do it myself? But it comes to an objection handling phase of put in perspective for them. Okay, hey, well, do you know how to run pricing? Do you know how to actually market the property to get these clients? Because you're making more money on an average, on a daily rate compared to a long-term rental. That's why hotels charge more money per night, and same with Airbnbs. but you got to understand pricing and understand the back end system. So that's one of the biggest things. The second thing is they want to see references, right? Especially nowadays. But it's so easy, man. Like you get in the door with one person. Like for me, when I first started, the landlord that gave me a shot, like I used him as a reference for all my future partnerships that I end up getting units from. You know, he would call and vouch for me and say, hey, he's been running my property for 6, 7, 8 months, doing phenomenally well. So that's kind of a big objection. They want to see references. And that's really it. A lot of the times, like you'll get those 2 objections or just a straight up no, you know, and that's fine. There's going to be people that say no, but it's a numbers game, you know, and you need to play your odds and you need to speak to as many people as you can. And truth be told, I tell a lot of people, if they're going to shut you down from day one and they like are not interested whatsoever, just move on. You don't want to work with those types of people anyway. And that's what I was saying before is you're going to understand that a smart businessman or a smart businesswoman that's a landlord or a property management group or apartment complex, they're going to realize how valuable you become. And a smart person is going to see, okay, wow, this may make sense, you know? So those are the people you want to target.
Hey guys, just to pause for 1 second. If you can like, subscribe, share, it would mean the world to me. I thank every one of you for listening to the podcast. You guys are the reason it's growing. Let's get back in the video. What do you tell people who are trying to get an Airbnb when they tell you, oh, it's too saturated? Because a lot of people say that there are properties everywhere. Yeah. Why should I get into it when there's so much competition out there?
100%. I mean, well, listen, there's competition everywhere, right? Anything that you get into, yeah, there may be a new business model that comes out like AI or something in today's world, copywriting, whatever it is. But when you look at it from a point of view, like everything's saturated, right? And if you're interested in it, you want to grow in that area, even if it is saturated, you just have to become really good at what you do and you'll do well, right? Of course, you need to avoid the saturated markets, and especially as a startup. But what I tell everyone is like, everything is saturated. You go into anything, any other business model, wholesaling, you go into copywriting, whatever it is that's out there in like the digital money space, crypto, like anything, it's all saturated. You have a large competition in anything that you do. But what I tell everyone is you got to obviously find someone that's done very well, right? Has got the skill sets, has got the results that, you know, so-and-so is looking to learn, and you apply it, right? So I think that's the best thing is understanding that no matter what you get into, it's not going to be easy, right? So like if your first thought is, I'm scared to get into this because it is saturated, I don't think I'm going to do well. Unfortunately, maybe entrepreneurship at your time isn't right. You know, it's maybe not the best thing for you. And I would never like say like, oh, this isn't right for you. Maybe you shouldn't be a business owner. I would never do that. But there needs to be a mindset shift in that. You know, there needs to be a different point of view of like, hey, you know what? I'm going to get really good at this and I'm going to do well no matter what. You know, and that's how you have to be.
How important is customer service when it comes to your clients' relationships with you?
Yeah.
What do you offer them when they rent from you? What kind of amenities or customer service do you offer your customers?
Yeah, it's a good question. So bottom line, you're running a hospitality service, right? So you have to have really good customer service. In the beginning stages, I was doing all my guest messaging myself outside of my softwares that I use to automate a lot of it. But you will have some picky guests. You will have some people that come in and say, hey, you know, I want a refund for this extra day because I'm leaving early, or, you know, I need some extra towels, you know, whatever it is. You are running a hospitality service. So the customer is always right. Right. And a good way to do, to accommodate these people, if you do have someone that's a little bit difficult, you do everything you can. There's times I've shipped bottles of wine to my units if there's a couple staying there, or give them extra linens that are warm towels, whatever it is. There's so many different ways that you can accommodate those people. But even before getting to that, you have to have a really good team, right? I have a really, really good team of cleaners that have been cleaning with me for years, and they're kind of like my boots on the ground people. So if there's anything that I need extra on top of what they have to do, meaning cleaning the property, then they will go to the property, they'll drop off a bottle of wine, or they'll drop off extra linens. Maybe I've had a couple people stay with me that are celebrities, and my cleaners will leave baskets for them, you know, with some liquor, whatever it is. That's super important. So like you're running a hospitality service, 5-star reviews are very crucial, right? So you need to understand that the customer is always right. And then later on down the line, you can train VAs, right, to kind of take over the customer service side.
Is that what the things you've got into? Because I was going to ask, what kind of team have you built to kind of automate it and kind of take a step back so you can focus on scaling instead of doing the day-to-day stuff?
Yeah, so I almost have 30 properties right now, and I have a team of about 6 people. It's about 2 full-time VAs that are on 7 days a week. They split their time.
Are they in America or elsewhere?
They're in the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. They're great. And I've went through a lot of hiring and firing. That's like another big skill set in entrepreneurship that you have to learn. It takes time. But yeah, I have a really good team. I have a really good team of cleaners that just strictly clean for me because they have enough work, right, in the markets where I can provide them full-time work. They don't need to clean for other hosts. So they are very, they're bought into the company, right? So you have to really come off of that framework to build company culture at the beginning stages. And you just have that solid foundation. That's what I tell all my students too that I'm coaching for Airbnb is you need to project in their minds, your employees, your cleaners, all these people. You need to paint a picture in their head where you foresee the company being, what your goals are. You need to get them to buy into you. And those were good. That's where good employees come, as long as you're a good owner and you treat them well. And of course they're, good.
Yeah.
They'll buy into the company and they'll go above and beyond for you. And those are the people that you want on the team. It's not just, pricing is big and all these other things that I talked about. You got to have a good team. Yeah. It's nearly impossible to scale without having a good team. Yeah.
Now, either business related or Airbnb related, what's the biggest horror story you have running your business?
Honestly, I will be honest, I haven't had anything crazy. I've had people party my stuff and destroy a couple things. Nothing too crazy. Airbnb and an outside vendor insurance company that you can use for short-term rentals, they'll cover pretty much everything as long as you have evidence. But I've had people come party. I've had people, smoke in my unit, whether there's weed or throw parties. Very rare it will happen. But it's part of the game. And then I've had people complaining about the air quality, outside, and they're saying, hey, I need a refund. I need to leave. It is a combination of just people. It's just how they are. But I haven't had anything too dramatic happen where I'm like, oh, I can't handle this. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What are some of the ways you've been able to systemize your business? I know you talked about using software, VAs. What are some of the ways that have assisted you to kind of take a step back?
Yeah. So of course, kind of talking on a higher level, SOPs are so crucial, right? But before I kind of talk about that, you got to have softwares. You got to have systems, especially with AI nowadays. So I use a PMS software, which is property management software, runs the automated messages, runs all the back end of collecting the data on the guests. And then I run Price Labs, which is an automated pricing system, right? So you plug and play the formula. You got to, of course, tailor it to how you want it to run, but that'll fluctuate your pricing daily based off the demand in the market. So that's super crucial. I use Turno, which is a cleaning software, which means you can find cleaners on there. You can invite cleaners via email. This way you can add them to your team. And then every time it connects to your Airbnb account, all these other short-term rental websites, every time you get bookings, it syncs to the Turno account, creates a schedule for them. Your cleaners know what property to clean. Everything's seamlessly easy there. And then I use a lock software called Remote Lock, right? And this is some game for people watching. These are the exact softwares that I use. Remote Lock is super, super cool. I use digital locks for all my units. So when a guest books, creates a temporary code, right, for every new guest, automatically sends to them. Everything syncs up together.
Lock on a keypad?
Exactly. Yeah. And then once you kind of have that foundation, you have to start as a business owner. You have to build that. And then once you start hiring more cleaners, once you start hiring VAs, you have to have SOPs. So one thing I will say is what's really helped me excel in business was documenting everything. Loom videos, SOPs, ChatGPT, of course, and just making SOPs on everything that you do on a daily basis. So when you do bring someone in, you have Google Docs, you have SOPs that you can give to them.
Oh, how do I do this? Just read the document.
Exactly. And a good employee will do so, right? They'll figure it out, especially a VA. A VA is someone that you may have to train for a week or two, but you hire them for them not to bother you. As long as you give them the information, you tell them how to do things, you onboard them correctly.
So they handle your customers if they have complaints or anything?
Everything. Cleaners, managing cleaners, guest communication with the complexes or landlords, everything that has to do with an actual human touch in the business, they take care of.
Do you have a booklet of SOPs? It's if a customer complains about this is how you respond. Stuff like that. You have objections, responses for your VAs.
What I will say too is a really good tip is, again, hiring and firing is a skill set. It takes time. And I've hired and fired dozens and dozens of people. You have to understand though, that you want to find really good people, right? And the way I do so is I hire Airbnb reps that used to work for Airbnb on the customer side of things. So they were working directly with Airbnb. They know stuff about reviews. They know anything that goes on the back end of Airbnb. Like they know how it works. So I hire those reps that have worked like at the top of Airbnb. They don't work with them anymore, of course, but they already have a service and understanding, not a service. They already have an experience level of customer service. They understand how Airbnb works, short-term rentals. So they kind of already have an idea of like, okay, what goes on the host side of things, let alone behind Airbnb. So like you kind of get one step ahead, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's just grooming.
Nice.
Yeah.
How important are reviews? What's your kind of offer to get people to give you positive reviews at the end of your stay?
Yeah.
I know it's very important because when I look for either a hotel, restaurant, Airbnb, you look for the best review, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Because you want to stay in the best place and you want to make sure, okay, the host is good. All those things are so crucial. Like that's the first thing that people go to, even when you go buy a product online. What are the reviews? What are the last people that bought this? What are they saying? Do they like it? Do they not? So important. And the way you do that is right at the beginning of their stay. I always embed, again, I'm talking about this because I talked about the employees of painting this picture in their mind from day one, getting to buy into the company. You do the same thing with your guests, right? So the first message I said when they check in, hey, anything I can do to provide a 5-star stay, anything you need, let me know. So from day one, the day that they check into my unit, like they know that they can reach out to me and I can accommodate whatever it is they need. So that's super important. And of course, you're gonna have things that go wrong. You're gonna have guests that have bad experiences, whatever that happens. If it's out of your host's control or not, unfortunately, it does fall on you, and that's just part of the game. It's the nature of Airbnb. But you need to provide a 5-star stay, and that's how you do that in the beginning, is embedding that in their head. And then, of course, when they leave, hey, I hope you enjoyed your stay. Would really appreciate if you left us a 5-star stay. If not, like, please give us your feedback on what you think didn't allow us to get there, whatever it is. Like you're always implementing new things. Maybe you could take something from a guest, like the towels are too small or something very simple like that.
Just improving on it.
Yeah. So it's super important.
And you just started, I'm not sure how long ago, but you started doing coaching Airbnb.
Yeah.
At what point did you want to shift over from not just running them, but to actually coaching people?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, some people would ask, like, why don't you just keep doing your own thing? Why do you got a coach?
Yeah.
So what's the reason behind that?
I think it's so important. Like, first off, I love helping people, right? Because understanding where I came from and having such I didn't even have to apply for a 9-to-5. And I'm blessed for doing that because I learned and went through that adversity at such a young age. So I really like helping people. That's number one, right? I like just giving them a different outlook on life. Like, you don't have to go work for someone. Like
Mentorship, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing is, like, listen, people may hate this, but first you get paid for what you do, and then you really get paid for what you know. That's how it works. It's the name of the game, right? And people don't tend to understand that. But yeah, I'm a businessman. Like, I like to build businesses, I like to exit them, and I like to help people along the way. Make a ton of money as you can, help people as much as you can, and have fun doing it. So I've been coaching for going on 2 years. Airbnb's been around for so long. So we have like a really, really crazy offer where it's like done for you. It gets you your first property, work with you one-on-one, do all these things. You gotta of course separate yourself from the competition, but I've always wanted to get into it, and I think the big thing was seeing my mentor, like where he came from, what he does, all the different skill sets he learned of putting himself in different aspects of business. Like, they're all learning phases. I've learned so much helping people myself that I didn't go through in my own journey that I'm able to apply in my life. Something I will say too, I had a very successful guy tell me this a few years back. You follow the 33% rule, right? 33% of people, and people have probably heard this before, it's pretty common. 33% of people you surround yourself that are lower than you, right? And this is mentally, physically, spiritually, that you can help pull up and teach them and coach them. And then you have 33% of people that are on your same playing field, right? That you can
working together,
bounce information off, bounce ideas, work together, grow. And then you have the last 30% of people that you're surrounding yourself that are higher than you, again, spiritually, physically, mentally, that you can learn from, and they can actually bring you up higher, right? And these 3 tiers essentially has helped me out a ton. People don't realize that. Even people that are doing less than you, and I hate to say it like that, but you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna learn a ton about yourself as well. So there's pros and cons to helping people to bring them up. And of course, learning from people that are above. And people kind of just have that view of like, just surround yourself around people that are doing better than you. Yeah, of course, right? That always helps, your environments and everything. You also need to help people that are below you, because there are people that are hungry, just like I was, that I know I can help, and I'll go through learning lessons, helping them. That's going to help me improve my life as well.
What keeps you focused and locked in? Because, you know, we're in Miami, a lot of distractions.
Yeah.
What keeps you focused in on strictly your Airbnb business and coaching, and not deviating, starting other businesses so you can just focus on those?
Sure. Two things. One of it is understanding my family. Like my parents work very hard. My dad works 66 years old, works a physical job still. And just knowing I'm down here having a good time. I don't get too caught up in the partying and things like that. Like, I work a ton and I'm addicted to working. It's just where I find my enjoyment. But knowing that they're back home, not struggling, but I know that they're not living as good as I am, you know, and I don't mean it in any bad way, but what drives me is like being able to help them. So when I do see them, I do as much as I can. And I'm not even talking about financially, right? I'm talking about in every other area of life. So that's really what drives me, being able to help them out every way I can. It's super important. And then a second thing is learning at such a young age that energy is everything, right? And there's a lot of people that tend to complicate this too much, where they try to start too many things at once. And now their energy is spread out in different business models, different things in their life, where they're not going to get the max results from it. And I learned that at a young age when I was trying all these different businesses. They all work. Yeah. Everything works. Saturated or not saturated, they all work. You just have to give it your entire time, attention, and focus and energy, right, to get the max rewards and reap the fruits of your labor. So learning that, of course, in my journey was like, hey, I'm going to focus on one thing, Airbnb, whether it's coaching or my own portfolio in real estate, and I'm going to be the best at it. Yeah. And that's it. And that's how you grow. Yeah.
If you start doing something else along with Airbnb, you wouldn't be as good at you are as Airbnb.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
If you could give one piece of advice to any kid wanting to start a business and who's scared to take that leap, what would you say? What would you tell them?
Yeah. So this is good. I like this. Good question. First thing first is two things again. Number one is you have to have the confidence in yourself. A lot of people are scared, not just learning from a mentor or jumping into a business model, is because they don't have confidence in their self. So for me, like, a big part of my journey was self-development, right? When I went through all that adversity, it was me kind of tucking myself away for about 18 months, you know, no drinking, nothing. Working on myself, reading, eating healthy, learning about foods, how it would affect my mindset, my thinking process. You need to develop yourself. You need to become the version of yourself that you see in the future. It's not just finding the winning lottery ticket of the business. You have to groom yourself first, because there's so many people. Use this as an example, right? There's so many people that say, I'm going to do this. They tell themselves, you know, I'm going to do this today, or I'm going to do that, and they don't do it. And that adds up. Their subconscious mind is not going to believe in them. So when you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to do this, well, after so many times, your mind's like, subconsciously, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So
it gets harder. It's a snowball effect.
It's a mind game. Yeah. Exactly. It's momentum. You know, it's momentum. It's super important. So you need to develop yourself, right? I don't mean like come Hercules in a year. It's a lifelong trip, right? But you do need to groom yourself. You need to shape your mindset. You need to think differently than most people. And then you can start looking to, okay, what is it that can build cash flow? What is it that I can get into that I'm interested in to actually get me to my goals? And through that process is, of course, finding someone you like, trust, and know, right? And taking their advice. The biggest thing, like going back to the professor story, is like, I saw the position in life that she's in. No harm on her. She's probably a great woman. She's probably doing great. I know in the back of her mind, though, she's miserable. She's not the life that she intended. So you need to understand the people that you're speaking to, what they're doing in their life, how they look, super important. Is their advice opinion, or is their advice gold? You know, and that's where you kind of take it and run. Find someone that's gone the way, walked the path, and actually achieved what you want to look for.
How important is accountability when it comes to business? And just personal growth, because a lot of people, they don't stay accountable to their goals, right? Yeah. And they tend to fail. So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah. So super important. I think a lot of people get drained, right? And they kind of have this sense of burnout. I think it's a thing, but I think it's not as known as it should be.
It's so funny. The last two things, energy and burnout, was the last podcast I had were the two big topics we just talked about.
Yeah. Accountability is everything, man. And for me, it's like, you got to stay organized. You got to do the little things right, man. Like that's going back to my point. People tell themselves, yeah, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to deposit this money, and they don't end up doing it. You know, what makes you think that you're going to start a business if you can't even do the little things right? Because it's all momentum. It's like the snowball effect, and compounding effect is real. Doing the little things, like as little as making your bed every morning, you know, cleaning up your room, your environment's everything. Your mindset runs off your environment. Your mindset is cluttered. It's probably because your environment's cluttered. You know, so that's what I mean by the self-development is literally so important, and it's a lifelong journey of reading and doing all these things. And it's not just solely on that, but it's self-development of building the character that you want to become and doing right, of course. But accountability falls into that layer of like, you build yourself and you're going to hold yourself accountable, because now when you do things, your mind knows you're going to do it. And every time you'll hold yourself accountable through that process.
If there's someone looking for a business to start, but they don't know where to start, and like you said, you found a mentor within Airbnb, you just went for it.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give somebody looking to start a business but not knowing which business to be in or which business would fit them best?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think trial and error, of course. Like for me, I knew that real estate was my interest. I want to get in real estate. Okay, well, how many business models are in real estate? Tons, right? We talked about a few of them already. So it's first finding what you're interested in, right? And then you could kind of go down that rabbit hole of, okay, what is out there, right? What is that's going to hit my goals, niche-wise or business model-wise? It's going to get me. Is your goal creating as much cash flow as fast as you want? Or is it just building a long-term company that you want to exit in 10 years that you maybe have a corporate job and it's great. You're gonna build a side hustle alongside, and then your goal a decade from now is to exit it, right? There's different business models for different goals, right? And that's what's most important. Like people I talk to, like my clients, is before I even help them out, like I need to find their goals. If I speak to someone and say, hey, I want to make 100 G's a month, and they're 25 years old and they have no business experience, I say, hey, bro, this isn't for you. Like you got to work on yourself, Of course, like I'm not saying, I'm just using 100 G's as an example, right? There are people out there, of course, doing that and crushing it. But you got to understand what you like, what you're interested in, and then based off your goals that you set for yourself and where you want to get to, short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, that's when you can start identifying, okay, what are the business models going to allow you to achieve that? Yeah.
What's your future look like with your Airbnb company as well as your coaching business?
Yeah. So
10 years from now, where do you want it to be?
Yeah, so I love short-term rentals. I think they're great. I'm currently buying stuff as we speak, so I'm getting into buying short-term rentals. Airbnb,
buying the actual properties, making them Airbnb?
Correct.
Instead of arbitrage, you're more so buying them now to develop the cash flow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always wanted to own property. I've never wanted to be a landlord. I don't want nothing to do with that. But there is a lot of headache with real estate. But for me, I want to make as much cash flow as I possibly can in that short-term rentals. So I use Airbnb arbitrage as a stepping stone, right? You don't need a ton of capital to get into it. Create a ton of cash flow, and then cycle that money into buying short-term rentals with the tax benefits of cost segregation, all those things. There's a ton of pros and cons to both ends.
You pay the mortgage down, build the equity now. Instead of just getting the cash flow, now you're getting equity in your properties. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I built the cash flow. I mean, I have an arbitrage portfolio doing phenomenally well, right? Now it's about multiplying it and preserving it. There's phases, making it, multiplying it, and preserving it. I have a really good mentor talk to me about that as well. Your goals have to change, and you have to use different business models to achieve those things. So 10 years, I plan on having a massive portfolio of owned short-term rentals. I'll definitely be planning to exit my Airbnb arbitrage portfolio in the coming years or months, whatever it is. I've had tons of offers already. It's got to make sense for me, though, of course.
Yeah.
It was always been a goal of mine to build, grow, and exit, right? As an entrepreneur, being a serial entrepreneur, which is super cool. So that's one of my midterm, short-term goals. And then, of course, buying short-term rentals. Now, as far as the coaching, make as much money as I can, help as much people as I can, and have a fun time doing it. That's like my goals with that. Because I've seen it. I've seen the enjoyment that I get from my students that I've helped them replace their 9-to-5. Kids that didn't go to college, they're working 80 hours a week in a physical labor job, and they replace their income with 5 Airbnbs. And it's a blessing to see, so that's really what pushes me on that area of my life. And I want to do that as many times as I can.
Yeah. And because your business is so systematized and you have all these SOPs and everything, someone wants to come and buy your business because everything's already set up.
Sure.
How did you get to a point where you have a sellable business? Like, what's the difference between having, we talked about this before the podcast, having a high paying job or having a sellable business?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important because, well, now you're dealing with high level investors. These people that have money, they have multiple businesses, they come in and they purchase stuff. It's a turnkey business that's profiting from day one. A lot of these older gentlemen or older businesswomen, they don't want to build a business from ground, right? They already have the capital. Why wouldn't they just make a really smart investment outside the stock market, outside of other investments like that, where they can have a cash flowing business from day one? So that was a big, big turning point in my life, of my business entrepreneurial life, was documenting everything, right? And having those SOPs, because I knew, and that was through the hiring and firing process. Every time I'd hire a new VA or fire one, like starting back from zero, training them, doing it myself, trading time for money in my business. And that's where so many people go wrong is, great, you're a business owner, but are you an employee inside? And without having those SOPs, you will stay an employee. You're still trading time for money. What's the point? You might as well stay at your 9 to 5 or stay at whatever you're currently doing. For sure. So having that turnkey business, now you're dealing with that higher level investors that want to move in and just cash flow with the business from day one. They don't have to get in the trenches and build it, Yeah,
definitely, Aurelio. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, man.
Dude, I appreciate you having me.
A lot of game. Yeah, this is a very valuable podcast. So
Heck yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much.